Okay. That evening, Minty told her father that she was going to run away. I mean it this time, she said. Oh, I believe you. Only problem is, you don't know where you're running to. Old Ben rose from his chair. Come outside, Minty. There's something I want to show you. Silently, they walked towards the barn. Old Ben lit his pipe, then pointed up to the sky. Do you see that star? He said. The bright one? That's the North Star, Minty. Do you see all those stars next to it? With his finger, he traced the outline of the Big Dipper. That's the drinking gourd, he said. Now you listen to me. If you're gonna run, first of all, you make sure it's night. The darker, the better. And before you do anything else, you look up and find the North Star. It'll be the only marker you have, so don't lose it. Old Ben reached for Minty's hand. You follow that star, he said, and it'll take you north, all the way to Philadelphia. Minty looked up at the dome of the sky. To her, all the tiny stars looked alike. Show me again, she said. Old Ben pulled her close and with the stem of his pipe began painting a picture of freedom in the clear night sky. The next morning, Old Ben told Rit that every Sunday he was going to take into the woods. If she's planning to run away, there are some things she ought to know first. Rit didn't like the idea one bit. She was scared. But Old Ben told her to stay out of it. I know what I'm doing, he said. One of the first things he taught Minty was how to read a tree. If you're ever lost, he said, and you don't know which way is north, just look at the moss growing on a tree. It always goes on the north side. Can you remember that? Minty nodded. Then she stretched out her fingers to touch the yellow-green moss. It felt fuzzy and a little brittle. She scraped some off the bark. Don't eat it, Ben warned. It'll make you sick as a dog. That summer, deep in the forest, Minty learned how to catch and skin a squirrel. She learned to do bird calls, and before long, she could run barefoot through the woods without making a sound. She learned how to catch fish with nothing more than a piece of string and a bent nail. And in the still, muddy waters of the creek, Old Ben taught her how to swim. That's right, he said. Keep your head down. Don't move your arms so much. You're doing fine. The only thing Minty couldn't learn was how to start a fire. Old Ben watched as she struck at the flint, trying to get a spark. Just keep at it, he told her. You'll get the hang of it. On the last day of summer, Old Ben and Minty took a tin bucket into the forest and filled it to the top with blackberries. Then they climbed a hill overlooking the river and watched the sunset. By the time they got back to the cabin, it was already dark. Old Rit put her hand into the bucket and laughed. I know just what to do with these, he said, pouring the plump berries into a big wooden bowl. Minty, you go up to the big house and ask Mrs. for some sugar and 2 cups of flour. Tell her I want to make a pie, if she'll let me. Go on now, and you hurry back. Her bare legs shivering, Minty started up the dirt path. The night air was cool. Autumn was coming in. She had nearly reached the big house when she saw a buckskin mare tied to an oak tree out front. Minty figured it belonged to a guest, someone visiting the Broaduses. The horse stood very still, watching her with uneasy eyes. Minty was about to turn away when a thought suddenly occurred to her. Reaching up, she placed her hand on the saddle. It was still warm and not too high. This is it, she said to herself. This is my chance to run away. Remembering what old Ben had told her, she looked up at the sky. There it was, the North Star, shining bright.